It's time for Saw 10, a film where John Kramer looks about 20 years older than when he died in Saw 3. Hi guys, so last night I went to see Saw 10. Now, I had intended to make The Woman in Black 2 my next review. I did watch the film, but then I fell ill with COVID and I was down for a whole week and I've forgotten like half the movie now, so I think I'm going to have to rewatch that film and review it at a later date. So for now, Saw 10, fresh on my brain, having gone to the cinema last night. Just to let you know where I stand with the Saw franchise, I used to be a big fan of it back in its early days. The first 6 movies, I loved them. I used to go to the cinema every year to watch them. But the whole thing just kind of died for me with Saw 7. That film was not very good at all, and it just felt like the whole thing had come to its natural conclusion. I liked the one that came out after that, Jigsaw, the one in the barn, the prequel. That was pretty good, but that's pretty much the only one of the latter day Saw films that I've liked. I really didn't like the Chris Rock one at all. And being honest, I didn't really like this one last night. If you don't know, it's a prequel set between Saw 1 and Saw 2, I think. So they've been able to bring back Tobin as Jigsaw. They've been able to bring back Shawnee Smith as Amanda. The story is that Jigsaw, at this point of the timeline, he's still getting treatment for his cancer, and he finds out about this underground treatment that's available in Mexico. It's not strictly legal, but he doesn't care about that. He just wants to get healed. So he goes down there, pays his money, a lot of money, like $500,000 or something like that. But these guys, they don't actually treat him. They just say that they've treated him. So he goes home and then he realises that he's been conned. So he goes back and finds the place empty because these con artists have moved on. So of course, Jigsaw being Jigsaw, he has them all rounded up and put into a warehouse and let the games begin and so forth. So where do I start with the problems of this movie? I guess we'll start just with that story synopsis that I've just given you, because this is available from the trailer. Like if you watch the trailer, it's only like 1 or 2 minutes, but you will pick up all of that plot from the trailer. So when you get to the actual movie, it's a little bit tedious to sit through the long version of this because it goes on a long time. Like it's this whole business of being conned by these people, it should really only take 10-15 minutes or so, but it seems to go on for about 45 minutes. It just drags and drags and drags. I did wonder why the runtime was about 2 hours. Well, I got my answer when I actually sat down and watched this film, because boy, does this film take a long time to get going. That doesn't always happen with Saw movies. They usually move along quite quickly, even the poorer ones. So I was really surprised by this last night. And another major complaint about this film, the actors, Tobin and Shawnee Smith, they are looking pretty long in the tooth now to be playing characters who died so long ago. It was really off-putting watching this. I mean, Tobin is almost 80 in real life, and credit to him for getting back in the saddle and making another movie. But the guy just looks ready to drop. He looks so much older than the version of Jigsaw who got killed with that saw in the third film. And Shawnee Smith as well. This is clearly a woman who is now in her 50s, and yet she died. Her character died back when she was in her 30s. So it's just weird. It's the neck that gives it away. You can't stop the neck aging, and they clearly didn't have the de-aging process to properly deal with the neck. The faces look okay, I suppose, but the necks just stand out a mile in this film, and I could never get away from that all the way through. It was only towards the very end when I started to forget about this problem, mainly because we were into the real nitty-gritty of the film at this point. But for most of this, I was just constantly looking at these actors and just thinking how ridiculous it was that they were playing younger versions of themselves from pre-2006. They just left it too long to make this film. Like, if they'd have done it maybe 10 years ago, maybe they'd have got away with it. I don't understand why they didn't use the cop from Jigsaw, because they established another helper in the Jigsaw prequel, I think. So maybe they could have used him, because that film wouldn't have been done so long ago. But I guess that character is not a horror icon like Shawnee Smith's Amanda, but regardless, it just didn't work what they did with this movie. A key ingredient of any Saw film are the traps, but there's very little in this film that has any ingenuity attached to it. I thought it was a pretty poor bunch of traps, it's got to be said. If you were going to do a top 20 Saw traps ranking, I doubt anything from this movie would make the cut, in all honesty. They've got a good looking one that's made the poster, this with the tubes that go into this guy's eyes, and I guess that's the pick of a very bad bunch, but even that trap has got its problems, because I wasn't sure if that was actually a real trap or whether it was just Jigsaw dreaming about putting somebody in a trap. But for the most part, it's just a very disappointing bunch of traps. Plus, it's very easy to predict who's going to make it out of their traps in this film, because in any Saw film, there's always somebody who beats their trap during the film just to keep you guessing, sort of thing. But this time around, I always seem to know instinctively which characters the film was going to bump off and which characters might get another chance beyond their trap, sort of thing. Also, the gross out factor in this film goes a little bit too far for me. One of the reasons why I started to go off this series around about Saw 7 is that they just ramped up the grossness a little bit too far. When I think back to that fish hook through the throat thing, and also the hooks on the breastbones, at that point I wasn't enjoying it. It was just like, it's too much. And, it's just, watching that stuff just isn't fun. This film has arguably the grossest trap ever. Again, this is something that's in the trailer. So you've got this guy who's scooping brain matter out. Come on, I mean, we must be like one step away now from having somebody just have to cut his own dick off or his own testicles or something, but scooping your own brain out, that really just gets to me a little bit. It reminds me of Ray Liotta having his brain scooped out in that film Hannibal. It's just not for me at all. And the traps in this film don't play fair. They're really harsh. Like, there's this one woman, and I'm going into spoiler territory now just to warn you. So she's got to basically get this bone marrow out of a leg kind of thing. She has to fill this beaker, but she plays the trap in the right spirit. She's going for it. She's putting herself through absolute agony to get this stuff out of her leg. Absolute agony, but she's doing it. And she's filling the beaker, but because she's like a couple of seconds slow from getting what she needs in this beaker, she's failed the trap. But I just found that really harsh. I felt like if you're doing the trap properly and you're playing the game the right way, then I think you should get an extension or something if you're really close to the end. I just felt like it was really harsh. And also the brain guy, same thing. Like, he scoops this massive chunk of brain out, dumps it in this beaker. And at that point I'm thinking, okay, he should win the trap just for that alone, because he's probably done himself all sorts of damage just by scooping that out. But no, apparently it's not enough. He's got to go back in there and get more and more brain. And it's like, these traps are just silly at this point. Like, the degree to which you've got to win them is just so ridiculous. It's not even worth winning them. So overall, the traps in this film, just a massive disappointment. Another criticism, so the players in this story, they spend most of their time in the warehouse chained up in traps. They're not actually moving around. Now, my favourite Saw films are the ones where the players can move around. They can explore the warehouse or the house or whatever, wherever they are. They can go into rooms and discover traps, and then maybe one of them will do it, and then they'll move on and they'll find another trap somewhere else. This is why the first Saw film has never been one of my favourites, because you basically got these two guys trapped in the bathroom and they just can't go anywhere, and it all feels a little bit restrictive, especially on repeat viewings. But that film sort of gets away with its premise because it was the first one. The whole concept is still quite fresh at that point. But then Saw 2, you get these characters who can move around, and that's actually my favourite Saw film. But you get that freedom of movement in a lot of the Saw films thereafter. Saw 3, 4, 5, 6. The characters can move around. This film they can't, and it definitely impacted my viewing pleasure. Another line that this film crosses, though, which made me feel really uncomfortable, is the fact that they put a kid in one of the traps. And I just cannot believe that they did this. It's really going too far for me. Now, you can probably guess whether this kid lives or dies, because it's a kid. But that's not the point. Just the fact that they had this kid in a trap, and looking absolutely petrified. I just don't get how we're meant to enjoy this, and there was no reason to have this kid pop up in the story and get put in a trap. It's just, why would you do that? Why would you put that in the script? It's just absolutely silly. The ending to the film, we get a big twist, as is the case with every Saw film pretty much, but the twist, it makes no impact on me this time around. I saw it coming a mile away, and you probably will too, because this film can only end one way, really, given that Jigsaw and Amanda both have to survive for future events in the timeline. So, of course, you are going to guess that they will get out of their various problems at the end of this. There'll be some sort of twist that twists things round to their advantage, no pun intended. So even the ending didn't do anything for me. I can't think of anything that I particularly enjoyed about this film. It's just not a good one. It's really not a good one. Obviously, I can't show you a copy of this film because it's only just come out. It's still in cinemas, but I won't be buying it when they release the physical edition. I have all the Saw films on my shelf up to and including Jigsaw, but I didn't buy Spiral, and I've no intention of buying Spiral, and I won't be buying this one either. I'm bemused as to the reaction that this film has got, both from the Saw fans and from the film reviewing press. I think this film has got like 85% Rotten Tomatoes or something. That staggers me, really staggers me. And when it comes to the fans, like if you go on Facebook and stuff and look in certain groups, people have done rankings of this series now that there's another film, up-to-date rankings, and quite a few people are putting this like second and third out of 10, and I just find that really weird. I saw a newspaper piece that called this the best Saw film since the original. Crazy, but you know, I'm one man's opinion. Everybody's got their own opinion, and that's fine. But I didn't think this was a very good film. But hey ho, let's get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score we've got for this. Got 1.5 axes out of 5. That says it all. And I'll be back very soon to do another review. Until next time, cheerio, bye bye.